You're listening to the N2K Space Network.
Most security conferences talk about Zero Trust. Zero Trust World puts you inside. This is a hands-on cybersecurity event designed for practitioners who want real skills, not just theory. You'll take part in live hacking labs where you'll attack real environments, see how modern threats actually work, and learn how to stop them before they turn into incidents. But Zero Trust World is more than labs. You'll also experience expert-led sessions, practical case studies, and technical deep dives focused on real-world implementation. Whether you're blue team, red team, or responsible for securing an entire organization, the content is built to be immediately useful. You'll earn CPE credits, connect with peers across the industry, and leave with strategies you can put into action right away. Join us March 4th through the 6th in Orlando, Florida. Register now at ztw.com and take your Zero Trust strategy from theory to execution.
Today is January 20th, 2026. I'm Maria Varmazes, and this is T-Minus.
T-minus 20 seconds to LOS T-Dress. Go for deploy. Roger, roll.
Black Sky Technology has signed multiple Gen 3 expansion contracts as the company has started to convert early access pilot programs into renewal deals. 4. York Space Systems has launched the roadshow for its proposed initial public offering of 16 million shares of its common stock. 3. The UK Space Agency has supported the opening of a new £20 million space innovation hub in Buckinghamshire.
2.
Gilmour Space Technologies has raised $217 million Australian dollars in a Series E round.
1.
NASA's Artemis 2 space launch system rocket and Orion spacecraft reached Launch Pad 39B after a nearly 12-hour journey from the vehicle assembly building. Our guest today is Spacecom keynote speaker Christian Davenport. Christian is a well-known Washington Post journalist and author of the book Rocket Dreams, and he will be sharing his insights about the commercial space industry later in this program, so definitely stick around after today's intelligence briefing. Happy Tuesday, and it feels like a Monday today, doesn't it? I hope all our U.S. listeners enjoyed our long weekend, and to all our non-U.S. listeners, thanks for sticking with us as we enjoyed a rare extra day off. Let's dive into today's Intel briefing, shall we? It was a busy weekend over at Kennedy Space Center in Florida as thousands turned out to see the SLS rocket roll out. NASA's Artemis 2 Space Launch System, or SLS rocket, and the Orion spacecraft reached Launch Pad 39B after a nearly 12-hour journey from the vehicle assembly building. The incredible engineering marvel, the Crawler Transporter 2, began its very slow 4-mile trek with the integrated SLS and Orion stacked on top at 7 a.m. local time. It's called the Crawler for a reason, though, as the baseball field-sized vehicle, that's a very American comparison, isn't it, moved at a maximum speed of just 0.82 miles per hour. It carried the towering moon rocket and spacecraft slowly but surely towards the pad over the 12-hour period. So now that the rocket is out on the launch pad, does that mean that we are one step closer to the moon? Oh yeah, absolutely. There are still many more milestones to pass before launch. In the coming days, engineers and technicians will prepare the Artemis 2 rocket for the wet dress rehearsal, which is a test of fueling operations and countdown procedures. Those tests are targeted for no later than February 2nd, and they involve the team loading the rocket with cryogenic propellants, running through the countdown, and then safely draining the propellants from the rocket. Those are all essential steps before the first crewed Artemis mission. Additional wet dress rehearsals may be required to ensure that the vehicle is completely checked out and ready for flight. And NASA reminds us that, if needed, they may roll back the SLS and Orion to the vehicle assembly building for additional work ahead of launch after the wet dress rehearsal. So the February 6th tentative launch date is very much TBD at this stage. And it was exciting to see the Artemis 2 crew of NASA astronauts Reid Wiseman, Victor Glover, and Christina Cook, and Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen all at the rollout. When launched, the Artemis 2 crew will embark on an approximately 10-day journey around the moon and back. And we do wish the team the very best of luck with the next steps in preparation for launch. And selfishly, we do hope to see the SLS on the pad when we are out in Florida next week. And moving on, let's go to Australia now. And Australia has firmly set its sights on space. Commercial rocket company Gilmour Space Technologies has raised 217 million Australian dollars, which is equivalent to about 146 million US dollars, in a Series E round. The company says that the investment will support the next phase of growth in Australia's domestic space capability. The funding round was jointly led by the Australian government-established National Reconstruction Fund Corporation and Host Plus, with participation from other commercial organizations. Proceeds from the raise will be used to support continued development and qualification of Gilmour's Eris orbital launch vehicle, which attempted the first launch of an Aussie-made rocket into orbit from Australian soil last July. Gilmour Space announced that it will also use the investments to scale rocket and satellite manufacturing, expand test and launch infrastructure, and grow the company's workforce to meet global demand for space launch services. Next up, we're going to swing back across the globe and over to the UK. And the UK Space Agency has supported the opening of a new space innovation hub in Buckinghamshire. The £20 million hub provides facilities with the aim to help space businesses grow and create up to 300 jobs. The Westgate Space Hub spans 62,000 square feet and offers state-of-the-art testing facilities, training spaces, and commercial workspaces for the growing UK space sector. It is backed by £5.8 million from the UK Space Agency and will support collaboration between small and medium-sized enterprises, major industry players, academia, and other stakeholders in the local space ecosystem. York Space Systems is going public. The satellite manufacturer has launched the roadshow for its proposed IPO of 16 million shares of its common stock. In addition, York intends to grant the underwriters a 30-day option to purchase up to an additional 2,400,000 shares of its common stock at the initial public offering price, less underwriting discounts and commissions. The IPO price is expected to be between $30 and $34 per share. York has applied to list its common stock on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol YSS. Yes. And Black Sky Technology has signed multiple Gen 3 expansion contracts as the company has started to convert early access pilot programs into renewal deals. Black Sky says that it's meeting demand for commercial tactical intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance services, and that countries can integrate directly into their own secure workflows. The company's Gen 3 aims to provide AI-enabled space services that can autonomously detect and classify tactical targets like vessels and aircraft in real time and maintain dynamic pattern of life monitoring over strategic borders and maritime zones without relying on limited availability of other nations' assets. No further details were shared in the press release about the nature of the contracts. And that wraps up today's intelligence briefing, my friends. Stay with us to hear from Washington Post journalist Christian Davenport about his new book. A reminder that links to further reading on all of the stories mentioned can be found in the selected reading section of our show notes. And hey, T-Minus listeners, pretty soon, in fact, just 1 week away, we will be attending Commercial Space Week in Orlando, Florida. And there will be a lot of moments from that conference that we're going to want to share with you that just can't quite make it onto the Daily Show, because there's going to be a lot, But we will post all of those extras on our social media platforms. We are at T-Minus Daily on Instagram, for example, if you'd like to see some exclusive videos posted there, as well as some behind-the-scenes moments from the show floor. Hope to see you there.
Ever wished you could rebuild your network from scratch to make it more secure, scalable, and simple? Meet Meter, the company reimagining enterprise networking from the ground up. Meter builds full-stack zero-trust networks, including hardware, firmware, and software, all designed to work seamlessly together. The result? Fast, reliable, and secure connectivity without the constant patching, vendor juggling, or hidden costs. From wired and wireless to routing, switching, firewalls, DNS security, and VPN, every layer is integrated and continuously protected in one unified platform. And since it's delivered as one predictable monthly service, you skip the heavy capital costs and endless upgrade cycles. Meter even buys back your old infrastructure to make switching effortless. Transform complexity into simplicity and give your team time to focus on what really matters, helping your business and customers thrive. Learn more and book your demo at meter.com/cyberwire. That's meter.com/cyberwire.
Our guest today is Christian Davenport, journalist and author of the book Rocket Dreams. Christian will be at SpaceCom next week in Florida and joined me to talk about his latest book, which came out last September. And I asked Christian to tell me about the questions that he was setting out to answer in Rocket Dreams.
It's really interesting when you talk about writing a book like this that is sort of a contemporary history, and you're dealing about events in real time, and you're, got a ringside seat to it, but then you know that it's going to be published, and, in a way, the story continues, right? So you have to end these books on ideas, not just events, because the events become quickly dated. But I think, sort of the outstanding questions and where the book leaves things is actually perfectly for where we are now, because the book sort of sets us up at a moment where we're returning to the moon under the Artemis program. SpaceX and Blue Origin, the companies, operated by Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, have positioned themselves to help NASA do that, to indeed help them land astronauts on the lunar surface, and you're seeing that play out. So in a way, I was a little bit worried about how things were going to set up, but the events unfolded just sort of like perfectly for the book to sort of set things up to where we are today.
Can you give me maybe a chronology of, the book came out last September, but what's the time span that it covers?
Yeah, it really picks up when, we had the beginning of the first Trump administration come into office. And after Obama, I think a lot of people in the space community felt like NASA and the space community as a whole was a little bit directionless. I mean, there had been this plan to go to Mars, called it the Journey to Mars, to go to an asteroid. And when the Trump administration came in, they sort of very clearly scrapped that and said, we're going to go back to the moon. And we need to not only go back to the moon, but to create a sustainable presence, on the moon, a moon base. And they did that in a way to sort of make it so that it would be, in a sense, bulletproof. That the reason why we haven't been back to the moon in 1969, it's not because of NASA, it's not because of technology, it's because of political will. And that you have in America, you have one administration comes in, says we're going to go to the moon, the next one says, no, we're going to go to Mars. And NASA keeps getting pointed around. And what they wanted to do was, create a program that would sustain, and they were successful. And so the book sort of covers that chronology through the first Trump administration, through the Biden administration, and then into the beginnings of this new administration today. And what you're seeing is how they brought in the commercial sector. They brought in SpaceX, and you get a real behind-the-scenes look at, the way Elon operates and the way SpaceX does what it does and has achieved its extraordinary success. And then also behind the scenes with Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin. And then I think finally, in this book, there's a real broadening of the aperture where you see the sort of geopolitical aspects and the space race with China that has really emerged to the forefront. So that's sort of your time frame.
So I'd love to talk a little bit about your conversations and coverage of SpaceX and Blue Origin. Obviously, we're all very fascinated by what these two amazing companies are doing. And I'm just curious, you must have done, I can't even imagine how many hours of coverage of both companies. If anything, in all the years of your work for this book specifically, stands out, favorite anecdotes, any experiences that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of my favorite stories when you look at SpaceX and how they've achieved the enormous success that they have, and you can be an Elon fan or an Elon hater, but the fact of the matter is SpaceX has been enormously successful. And one of the anecdotes I tell is a story about how when they were competing for the contract to fly NASA astronauts to the International Space Station, and their spacecraft, of course, would have to dock with the International Space Station, which is, something that NASA's invested $100 billion in. You have 6 astronauts or so at any given time living there. You really don't want any kind of collision with the International Space Station. So NASA said, we're going to give you the docking mechanism for free. And all you have to do is bolt it on to the end of your spacecraft, and you're going to dock with our space station. We want you to use it. A young SpaceX engineer who hadn't even been at SpaceX very long took one look at this docking system and was like, you know what? It's not very good. I can build something better and simpler, and rejected it and went and built something literally, and the prototype was using the shock absorbers from a mountain bike because he thought a spring system would be better to sort of, as it docks. So I think that sort of creativity and that kind of innovation, shows how SpaceX has gotten ahead the way that it has.
Yeah, and I feel like it's also very emblematic of the mythology around SpaceX and why it has so much allure for so many. I'm curious also about Blue Origin. There's been a lot of motion from Blue Origin in ways that I have found positively surprising. Almost a coming from behind story. I wasn't expecting to hear so much, and you must have seen this coming. So I'm just curious what you saw.
Yeah, I think some of us did see it coming. A lot of people have been hoping for it to come. I think it's been a long time coming and delayed. I mean, I think a lot of people wanted them to show up earlier. But yes, finally, Blue Origin had a very good year in 2025. They launched their New Glenn rocket. This is their rival to SpaceX's Falcon 9. It's a big rocket that can go to orbit, and they landed it on the second launch. The idea is building rockets that are reusable to drive down the cost of access to space. They've got some real momentum. I mean, Jeff, I think a lot of people had been treating Blue Origin as a hobby for a long time, that he wasn't serious about it, even though he's investing, as he said, $1 billion of his own money into it every year, is sort of this, again, just sort of like a think tank almost, and not, moving ahead quickly the way that SpaceX was, and Jeff wasn't devoting his time to it. But, since he stepped down as CEO of Amazon, he's been spending a lot more time focused on Blue Origin. You're seeing that have an effect, and it's possible they actually land a spacecraft, a robotic spacecraft, there won't be any people on it, but on the moon this year. And that would be, I think, an enormous success, and surprise people even more that they've been able to do that, or at least to attempt a lunar landing. But it has been a long time coming, yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious about other space industry companies that maybe didn't make it into the book that you're also very interested in and keeping an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, there are several. I mean, on the rocket side, we talk a lot about, Rocket Lab. I think Stoke Space is a really interesting company. But the interesting thing, I think, now about where we are in this sort of growing space economy is that we focus, so much in mainstream media and authors and the press on the rockets and the astronauts, and more recently, the billionaires, the space barons. But what's happening is a blowing up and a growing of the ecosystem beyond that. So you're seeing companies like Interloon, for example, which was founded by Rob Meyerson, the former president of Blue Origin, that wants to do lunar mining, mine helium-3 on the surface of the moon. You're seeing companies that are building rovers that would go on the lunar surface, that would be autonomous. You're seeing companies, Blue Origin is working on this with, companies like Axiom that are building commercial space stations, that are building spacesuits, that are building ways to create power on the surface of the moon. So again, a broadening of the space ecosystem beyond just sort of the means of transportation, the rockets and the spacecraft. But then once we get to where we're going, what can we do to live and to thrive and to build?
Yeah. And also with all these companies building out this ecosystem, I'm wondering also about the bureaucracy that often they complain about is hampering them. So what's your take on that, the current state and maybe where it's going to go?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the concerns about NASA, that it's gone into middle age or even older age, it's developed very hardened bureaucracies, and particularly after 2 space shuttle disasters that cost the lives of 14 people. I think a lot of people think it retrenched and it bore the scars of those tragedies and became risk averse and lost the swagger and the boldness that it had during the Apollo era. I think that's one of the things that we're seeing the new NASA administrator, Jared Isaacman, try to attack. And you hear him just in the last couple of weeks saying, I want to flatten the bureaucracy. I want good ideas to come up. I want to liberate the great minds at NASA so that they can do what they need to do. And if he's able to do that, and you have a more liberated NASA collaborating with the private sector, collaborating with international partners, I think that's how some of these bigger goals are achieved.
Mm. Any thoughts about other parts of the bureaucracy? I'm thinking like the FAA, anything in the other parts of the federal government?
Yeah, and one of the ones that I think is misunderstood, and I don't know if this is where you're going with your question, but the United States Space Force,
Sure, yep,
which is I think becoming an increasingly important part of the Pentagon, and could very well be a force that helps drive innovation and the use of the commercial sector, because while NASA has a budget of about $25 billion, the Pentagon has many, many, many more times that, in the $800 billion range, which is not where the Space Force is. But as you see the Space Force increase in popularity or increase in importance at a time when we're seeing, China and Russia emerge with new kind of capabilities and new threats in space, that could really help drive innovation as well and collapse perhaps some of what people perceive as the bureaucratic, crust that has stood in the way of, so much innovation and from taking place.
Yeah, it sounds like you're hopeful for the pace of innovation to accelerate.
I think so, because I think you've seen companies like SpaceX, just show how it can be done, in an area, in a domain where, there hadn't been much innovation for decades, frankly. And then all of a sudden you have a company that's, flying rockets once every 2 days, that's reusing them, that is, able to fly people, and so fly people safely, and now working on other new technologies like being able to have propellant depots in space. I mean, I think that's really important. You talk about a reusable rocket, that was sort of an innovative technology maybe 10 years ago. But if you look at what's the new technologies that are coming, if you can refuel your spacecraft in space, that could be game-changing. I mean, imagine if you're in your car driving from Florida to California, but you can't refuel, and all the fuel you have to take with you. That makes it a really difficult trip. So if you can refuel in space, I think that will change the way that we interact with space.
We'll be right back.
When it comes to mobile application security, good enough is a risk. A recent survey shows that 72% of organizations reported at least one mobile application security incident last year, and 92% of responders reported threat levels have increased in the past 2 years. GuardSquare delivers the highest level of security for your mobile apps without compromising performance, time to market, or user experience. Discover how GuardSquare provides industry-leading security for your Android and iOS apps at www.guardsquare.com.
Welcome back. The man, the myth, the legend, no exaggeration on any of those, the Buzz Aldrin, the second human being to ever walk on the moon, today turns 96 years old. Here we are, more than 50 years after Apollo 11, and Aldrin's story, his courage, and his boot prints still frame how we think about exploration, risk, and what it means to go somewhere where no one has gone before. Buzz Aldrin is one of our last living bridges to the Apollo era, And as NASA's Artemis program works towards returning astronauts to the lunar surface one day, Buzz Aldrin's legacy feels especially close and highly relevant. After all, Artemis 2 just rolled out to the launch pad over the weekend, and soon, yes, actually soon, we will see humans returning for a flight around the moon after more than 50 years away. And the achievements of the incredible Artemis 2 crew will be truly standing on the shoulders of giants like Buzz Aldrin. The path forward for Artemis and beyond still traces back to those first steps from Neil Armstrong and Buzz. So it is always worth taking a moment while we still have some of our Apollo moonwalkers with us. Happy birthday, Buzz, and thank you for helping light the way that we've been following again. And that's T-Minus, brought to you by N2K Cyberwire. We'd love to know what you think of our podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing space industry. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to space@n2k.com. We are proud that N2K Cyberwire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K helps space and cybersecurity professionals grow, learn, and stay informed. As a nexus for discovery and connection, we bring you the people, the technology, and the ideas shaping the future of secure innovation. Learn how at n2k.com. N2K's senior producer is Alice Carruth. Our producer is Liz Stokes. We are mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester, with original music by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Peter Kilpie is our publisher, and I am your host, Maria Varmazes. Thank you for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.
T-minus.
If you only attend one cybersecurity conference this year, make it RSAC 2026. It's happening March 23rd through the 26th in San Francisco, bringing together the global security community for 4 days of expert insights, hands-on learning, and real innovation. I'll say this plainly, I never miss this conference. The ideas and conversations stay with me all year. Join thousands of practitioners and leaders tackling today's toughest challenges and shaping what comes next. Register today at rsaconference.com/cyberwire26. I'll see you in San Francisco.